I'm realizing something that I'm kind of naturally drifting towards that I didn't even intend on to begin with. You know, it's weird. Like Kahuna's question really is just like dwelling with me. Like every writer's thing that they gravitate towards over time as they mature. A lot of my a lot of my characters die. You know, and I know what it's like to be like sick and stuff. Like I've gotten pretty close and to that, and so I think there's some weird stuff going on there, but it only makes me want to lean into it more, right? Because like I think that's one of my one of my strong suits with my combat, right? Is I try to make it kind of like the Bourne Identity, where it's like quick, quick, bing, bang, boom. It's like a samurai duel, but then right when that moment strikes, all of a sudden everything slows down drastically. It's like quick, quick, quick. Oh, the battle's over, but the death is slow, right?
Yeah.
Because death is slow. It's not just as soon as I touch you, you just fall over, it's lights out. No, you got to bleed out first, and there's more to it. You're going to start shivering and sweating at the same time.
Getting the right
curl up.
pacing for your book is critical, and it's very hard to do because some books are fine being breakneck pace, and others would suffer greatly.
So
from
I
it.
guess my overall takeaway is I feel like my future lies in tension building, just through the way I described
Well,
it.
so one of my
Sexual tension.
favorite inspirations for fight scenes in general is Samurai Jack. I think one of the biggest episodes, which I try to put in like almost all my fight scenes, was there's an episode where like 5 assassins are in like a hut and they're all coming up with their plan and how they're going to take down Samurai Jack.
So
and
good.
like by the end of each one of them discussing their plan, you're like, dude, there's no way Samurai Jack gets out of this. He's screwed. They got him. And then next thing you know, the plan falls apart immediately because Jack just too good and he takes him out. And it's just
And then he's like, what if I swing my sword even harder than before?
What if they grab my sword? I just grab it back. Didn't think about that.
Whoa! Like as a child, like my mind's blown. What?
Yeah. Dude, it's so good. And so I'll have a lot of my fight scenes. It's like, man, if you hear a lot of this planning going on, you're like, damn, they got this in the bag. They don't got it in the bag.
Have any of you guys watched Primal?
Yeah,
I have not. I really need to watch that.
That is easily one of my favorite animated things that exist. It's one of my favorite stories that exist. And I'll just say, back to the previous point, that Saving Private Ryan actually is a great example. Like, I feel like I bring some of that energy, and we all know the scene I'm talking about. That's probably the most drawn out it would be.
I don't know what's Primal.
Primal is great. It's
Thank you. What is it?
Same
guy
studio that did Samurai Jack.
Same.
It's the same creator. He's doing. Think if you mixed Conan the Barbarian with Tarzan and dinosaurs, then you get Primal.
Yeah.
Oh, like he does the short stuff, like the little animated stuff, right?
Yeah.
I've seen that. It's really cool. It's like a caveman, like Conan with his little dinosaur buddy. They both have the tragic backstory. Yeah, it's great, man. The little portions I've seen.
They share a tragic backstory actually on top.
I actually like it a little more than Samurai Jack. If I'm going to be controversial, I still love Samurai Jack.
I don't know if that's controversial from what I hear. I need to watch it. I mean, that guy's a legend. I mean, he also
isn't it silent also?
Yeah, there's no dialogue. Or if there's any dialogue, it's all in a language you are not supposed to recognize.
Yeah,
the best episode is one of the best episodes of Samurai Jack. The tower with the 3 blind guys shooting arrows. There was not a word said.
So sick.
Yeah. Talk about
Genndy Tartakovsky. Genndy Tartakovsky, absolute legend. One of my heroes, to be honest. I would love if he animated one of my stories one day. Come do Queen Votisa, brother. Let's do some animate my novel. Let's go. We'll do one.
Bro, you know what would be cool? Like a 1917 film style of Memory of Mortality. Maybe add a little bit more, make it a little clearer, but
I know.
That would be like if you get the lighting right and the atmosphere, that would be very, very cool.
Because there is time jumps, but you could just do a very clever transition where it kind of blurs, and then because the main character, the protagonist, is kind of out of it anyway, right? So it's just kind of like Memento, right, mixed with that. But anyway,
is there any desire as a writer to go in the polar opposite direction of what you're comfortable and familiar with? Like, keep your style, retain that style. But if you're used to writing the guy, like, you know,
There's
a lot of your stories.
I think if you're
there's
stuck,
no
there
design.
is.
Things
I'll
don't
be
end
right
well,
back. Yeah.
But just to
Well,
go
I'll
in the
say, like-
opposite direction and see if you can, just to stretch your wings. Maybe it's not something you publish, but
I
just
feel
to
like
see.
There's not a desire to do it, but like that's probably the best thing you can do. And again, the example I always bring up is Yu Yu Hakusho, the writer, started by writing romance. And then he went to writing two of the best manga series, action manga series ever.
I
So
guess
it's just having those opposite like types
there's a
of
broader question
storytelling.
here.
Mhm.
As an author, so I mean, even as a musician, I write like pop punk, I do pop stuff, I do metal, I do like darker stuff, and there's a little bit of a spectrum. I've done pure pop. As an author,
I'm also on the spectrum. Thank you.
all right, nice, excellent, excellent. All right, is it the kind of thing where it's better to find the thing you're good at and just go in that direction, or to do scattershot and try different things and to see that maybe if you like doing X, there's an audience over here and you can kind of do that? Is there any desire to try these different types of stories and see what happens? Or is it mostly just like, nope, I do my thing. We just put our nose down to the grindstone and have at it?
Not saying I'm doing it, but it's probably better for you as a creator to diversify. I think always diversifying your abilities and whatnot is always the better answer. But financially, it's probably better to specialize and key into the audience. With anything, right? With like YouTube and stuff like that. Like YouTube, like you got to stick to what you're creating to gather that audience.
I know
you specialize.
Yeah, that's what I guess I'm going to get is everything algorithmic. But if you could have a YouTube channel for different topics, like I like topic X is my favorite, but there's also YZABC. Should I try these other things and see where I can find an audience, or should I just stick with what I want to do? And we talked about this before, that balance of where you can find people, your skill set, and all of that as well. We talked about before. It's kind of something we've hit on in this show, but I don't know, because there's certain
That's why
people I
have
like
to
the
make
writing
new
style,
channels.
and I would love. You're right. I'd be curious to see. But I don't know how often it happens that artists branch out and do these other things.
Everyone would advise
handle.
you for financially, like when you're writing, to write in the same genre. Because it's all, because they say it's all about building an audience, and so you know they're gonna try to invest in the author most likely. So if the writer writes sci-fi, they're gonna read the writer's sci-fis, and then if he starts doing like fantasy or something like that. That same audience, maybe a little of them, but most of them are probably not going to pick up that fantasy.
Sure.
I'm not speaking like I have experience saying that. That's just kind of what I've heard.
If you could,
which sucks for me because I have the.
I think it depends. I think it depends on the kind of writer you are, because like I don't love every Stephen King book that I write, but I know some people who will read anything he writes down, including a grocery list.
Well, that's because he's with the pedophile elite, so you know. I'm sorry. How did it get past editors?
Thank you.
I think it was back like the literary world didn't have.
It was all right back then.
I'm not saying it's all right,
I know. It's low. It's low.
No. We are all. Every single one of us is allowed to have an opinion here. There's no discrimination.
Fine.
Well, on the note of writing, we were talking about like writing in different genres. This might just be my two kahunas, but diversifying what you write early on seems like a pretty good idea while you're still developing your style.
Before you get the audience, yeah.
Right, before you get the audience. After you get the audience, trying to change to a different genre, it's tough.
You could end up like Brian McCoppin having a non-fiction book about work that sells more than your fantasy books that you love and actually work on.
He also has a romance novel.
Those Indians, they look at him to find more IT books, and they're like, "What the fuck? Record of Paladins?
Record of the Paladins? This does not look like IT book. What is this?
How can I learn for the Record of Paladins?
I cannot find Vishnu.
Why is he fighting on each?
Look at Howard. He made like 20 characters. He threw a lot of stuff at the wall until Conan stuck. He wanted Kane, but Conan was printing money. And like, look how many people like wrote Conan after him. How many of them actually did the character justice when they wrote him? Very few of them, in my opinion. At least, they weren't all bad, but they just didn't have that same flavor that Howard had when he wrote it. And honestly, like, I'm with you, Metal. I think Solomon Kane was a far superior character, at least in my opinion.
Even try looking at some of Howard's other stories. Like, not all of his stories are gold. Not even a master like him. Like, some of his earlier stories, like, I've read some of his historical tales, and like, compared to like Solomon Kane or Conan, some of them are still good, but they are nowhere near the same level of quality.
Right.
So it's like even a master like Robert E. Howard was still taking risks with his work, which you need to do. It's like you can't just sit and try and write the same variation of the same story like over and over. It's like you got to take risks to a certain extent.
Is it maybe a good idea?
Improving.
Is it maybe a good idea then, as an author, to try out these different things early, even if you have the one in mind that you're going to push? Those seeds are planted. So you can always come back and revisit them. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And then short story writing, right?
Yeah, short story writing is a great way to experiment. And it's
fun. It's easy. Yeah. Like I've like there's a lot of groups that are out there doing like short story compilations, and like by a whole bunch of people. Even Anvil magazine is like that. Shout out.
Iron Age Media runs the short stories weekly. Image or whatever it's called.
Prompt.
Image prompt.
Yeah, well, I have whole stories based off of some of those prompts. Gave me ideas for like some of my world building. It's very cool.
And we were talking about AI earlier. This is one of the best applications of AI is inspiration. Like, each of those prompts has an AI image to go along with it to help inspire your story. And that's one thing AI is very good at. It's not very coherent, but it is good at kind of like sparking different parts of your mind that will help give you an idea. That's something that it's really, really good for. And in that sense, I have nothing against AI art in that respect for purely inspiration.
Yeah, no, and
that sounds a little backwards. Don't you use your imagination to prompt the AI? Not to.
Well, sometimes you just got to see the idea in front of you in one way.
Like me, I'm
wrong. It sounds like
some of my. Well, it sounds like it, but like honestly, I'd rather have something inspired by a very basic work done by AI and finished by a thoughtful, caring person, rather than a person prompting the AI to do all the work for you. That seems more earnest to me, anyway.
But those prompts learned from something real, so
I feel like AI at its best is that volley back and forth where you start as the creator, you send it there, it comes back, you say no, you fix this, you send, and you take that and kind of go with it. I think that's the broader takeaway there, that you see something and then go with it, and you might have had an idea to start to get some ideas, and that volley starts getting going to get your brain in gear.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a good idea for brainstorming. As for developing solid ideas that branch out into stories, that takes a bit more legwork. But just for kind of like helping your mind to try and come up with very basic concepts, I think that's where it's pretty good. Because you're kind of getting that already from a lot of art pieces, a lot of stories that you're reading. So it's very good in that basic sense, like basic.
You would actually be surprised if you typed in the technical terms of everything and just kind of visualized your character top to bottom and went down describing everything and typed that into an AI, how actually kind of close it gets. And I mean, it gets a lot wrong. It's not perfect, nothing you'd use, but you can see like
what is happening to his hand. What's wrong with it?
Yeah, that too.
It's gotten better about that, but the hands are almost always like slightly funky. Dude.
Eyes, more than one character in a frame. It's terrible with all of those.
Founding fathers, all of
it. Even my like the AI filters I use, the only like AI stuff I really do, it like the eyes are almost always wrong. Almost always.
Yeah, I mean, but some simple, quick editing can make that way easier. And then, it always struggles with more than one person. It's like, okay, so prompt one person, prompt another person. Put them together. Boom.
Put them together.
When you say
Bring-
put together, it's like they're actually branching out from the same body. It's just
It's
four
just like
sets of limbs or whatever.
they look like the Family Guy child of Miss Piggy and Kermit. Kill me.
Lovecraftian.
Lovecraft. No, that's the perfect word.
Well, it's like Cronenberg, actually.
I've
Well,
actually
both.
thought of this as an idea. One good use of AI I could see for inspiration is if you're trying to do horror, you just feed something into the prompt and you're trying to get kind of like a horrific creature outside of it. I guarantee you the AI will come up with something that's truly uncanny and terrifying.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, AC. Those sounds were just what? What was going on there?
Those are agreement noises. I said, oh yeah.
You just watched a clip from the Iron Seas podcast. Make sure to like this, subscribe, it helps us out a little bit. And please catch the show live at 9:30 Eastern every Tuesday.